Trading in Blox fruits is by far one of the most confusing aspects of the entire game, and that's because there are so many different fruits in this game, and they all have different values, so trading is pretty hard if you have no knowledge of it. Which is why today I'm going to teach you guys how to trade in Blox fruits and the value of basically every single fruit in the entire game to help you in your trading journey, so let's get started. Now before we begin, this video is sponsored by U7Buy. U7Buy is a website that allows you to buy fruits, accounts, items, boosting, anything Blox fruit related or Roblox related. You can check them out in the link of the description below. Make sure to use code Philly for 5% off your next purchase. Okay, so before we get started, there are a ton of fruits that basically no one ever wants to trade for. These are all the fruits that no one trades for on screen right now. If you have one of these fruits, you're not going to get any trades for them. Just trust me on that one. Now, let's get into the actual fruits that people trade for. Let's go. Okay, so the very first fruit that we have is going to be the light fruit. Now, the light fruit is worth 800,000 in actual trade value. Now, I will explain how the trade value works in just a moment, but the permanent version is worth 115 million. If you have a ton of fruits that add up to 115 million, you can get yourself the permanent version maybe. But we'll see, it always depends on the person you're trading with as well. Okay, so let's actually explain how trading works in this game and how to know if you've got a dub trade or an L trade, alright? So it's very simple. Let's say that I have myself a rubber fruit, but I want to trade it for a light fruit. Now, if we were to put the light and rubber fruit side by side, you can clearly see on each side of the screen, we've got ourselves the light fruit at a valuation of 800,000, which means it is slightly better than the rubber fruit in terms of trade value. Now, if I wanted to get myself a dub trade, I would trade my rubber fruit for that light fruit, and that would be a dub trade because it's worth more than the rubber fruit, right? Basically, that's it. That's all there is to trading. It's very simple, guys. Okay, so now that you basically know the basics, let's just get into trading, boys. Let's get into the valuation of every single fruit in the entire game. Okay, so now that we've done rubber and we've done light fruit, the next fruit is going to be the ghost fruit. Now, the ghost fruit, unfortunately, has a very, very low demand at 2. Basically, no one wants this fruit whatsoever. The actual trade valuation is the same as light, 800,000, and the permanent trade valuation is 90 million. Still, every permanent in the game is really, really expensive, but this one is a bit of a cheaper permanent, so if you did want it, good for you, but let's move to the next fruit. Now, if you got yourself a bit of a magma fruit, you are in kind of luck because the demand is quite high for magma fruits because a lot of people use them for sea beast hunting, so they like to have a good stock of them. Now, the valuation of the actual trade is going to be 1.15 million, so you can get some decent fruits for this, or you can get some lower end fruits for it. However, the permanent fruit is godly expensive at 135 million valuation, so yeah, you probably won't get your hands on that one, but if you do, magma is one of the best permanents in the entire game. Definitely recommend it. Okay, so the next fruit is going to be the quake fruit. Now, the demand for this one isn't very high. Basically, all the demand is just people trying to trade it in for the Don Swan upgrade room or whatever else it is. The actual valuation is 1 million, so it's not bad. I mean, it's okay. And the permanent valuation is 140 million. There's not a lot of people that will buy permanent quakes, so I mean, I don't really recommend it, but it is there and it is pretty expensive, just so you guys know. Okay, so the next one is going to be the Buddha fruit. Now, the demand is 10 out of 10 for this fruit because everyone wants a Buddha fruit. It's basically one of the most desirable fruits in the entire game. Now, the actual trade value for this is a staggering 8 million. Even though this fruit is not that rare, it is a very high demand because a lot of people want it. And the permanent is, of course, very expensive as well at 160 million. People want a lot of fruits for this, so you're going to need some big mythical fruits if you're going to want to afford that. Okay, so the next one is going to be the love fruit. Now, the love fruit drops down quite a lot here. It's kind of a massive drop-off as the value, or the demand, sorry, is only 6 out of 10, not that high. And the actual value is, again, 1.15 million, same as magma. And the permanent cost is a little bit higher than magma. It is 145 as well, million, sorry, because it is a little bit more expensive than magma. That's why it costs a little bit more. Okay, so the next fruit that we have is going to be the spider fruit. Now, the demand is very low for this fruit because not a lot of people want the spider fruit or use it anymore. The valuation is the same as both love and magma, 1.15 million. and the permanent is more expensive, again, because it costs more Robux, so people have to spend more, so they want more for it. Pretty basic stuff, but there you go. That's the spider fruit. All right, so the next one is going to be the sound fruit. Now, the sound actually has quite a low demand, but the value is quite high compared to what the demand is. The value is 2.5 million, so pretty expensive if you want to get this one. And the permanent one is actually a little less than spider, which is strange, but it is like that just because I guess not that many people want it compared to spider fruit. It is 150 million for that permanent, so good luck getting it, guys. Very expensive indeed. All right, after that, we, of course, have our Phoenix fruit. Now, not a lot of people want the Phoenix fruit at all. It's not that rare of a fruit, and it's not that, like, highly demanded, and it's hard to awaken. So, people don't really want this one. The demand is 4 out of 10. The value, trade value, is 2.25 million. And, of course, the permanent is 130 million, which is a massive drop from Spider. So, I mean, still expensive, but nonetheless, not a bad fruit. If you're able to roll it, you can get maybe a little bit for it, or you can add it to save up for something better. Now, just like the Buddha fruit, the portal fruit is one of the most demanded fruits in the entire game. It's got a 10 out of 10 demand, which means its price is going to reflect that at 8 million trade valuation, the same as Buddha, and the permanent valuation being absolutely staggering at 190 million. It's not cheap at all, boys. Now, the Rumble fruit is also a very highly demanded fruit, but only being 8 out of 10 comparing to the Buddha fruit. That means its value is going to drop a little bit to 7 million, so 1 million less. But the permanent, because it is more expensive than Portal, is going to skyrocket to 205 million. A lot of people use this for PvP as well, so it's a very expensive fruit. Okay, so our next fruit is going to be the Pain fruit, and even though this is a legendary fruit, the demand is only 1 out of 10, which means basically no one wants it, which reflects the price. Even though it is legendary, it is only 2 million value, and the permanent is 195 million. Again, the only reason that permanent value is so high is just because it costs a staggering 2,200 Robux. Quite a lot of Robux. Okay, so next that we have the Blizzard fruit. Now, the Blizzard fruit is a 6 out of 10 demand, which means there are a few people wanting it, but not that many, which means its value is only 5 million. Still quite a lot, though. If you pull this fruit, you've done well. The permanent value is a staggering, again, 200 million. Not cheap at all. By the way, Blizzard fruit is a goated fruit. You should absolutely get your hands on this fruit if you're still leveling up. A really, really awesome fruit to level up with. Okay, the next fruit that we have is going to be the Gravity fruit. Now, this is the first mythical fruit on the list, but unfortunately, or fortunately for you, this fruit is the worst mythical of all time, and it only has a demand of 2 out of 10, a value of 2 million, and a permanent value of 180 million. No one wants this fruit, basically, and it's very hard to trade people for this fruit. Alright, so now we're starting to get onto the heavy hitters because we are in Mythical City. So the next mythical we have is going to be the Mammoth with a demand out of 5 out of 10. And even though the demand is not that high, this is still a massive value of 10 million, which is really, really good. The permanent value is even higher though, of course, at 210 million. Okay, the next one we have is going to be the T-Rex, and this one absolutely gaps the Mammoth completely. Demand of 7 out of 10, and a value of 20 million. It's basically a better Mammoth fruit, and a permanent value of 245 million. Very expensive indeed. Okay, the next one we have is very similar to the T-Rex. It is the Doe fruit. Demand is 10 out of 10. People want this fruit a lot, so if you have a couple of them, you can get rid of them very, very easily. The demand is 10 out of 10, as I said. The value is the same as the T-Rex fruit at 20 million, and the permanent value is 275 million, which is a lot, but that's because everyone uses it for PvP, so people want the permanent versions a lot. Okay, so this is when we start to take a little bit of a dip in terms of value. This is the Shadow Fruit. Now, the Shadow Fruit has a 7 out of 10 demand, and that's not really because people want the fruit, that's just because people use it to get other fruits, you know what I mean? There's not a lot of people that actually care about the Shadow Fruit, but the actual value is 6 million. It's not worth a lot for a mythical fruit, but the permanent is worth a lot because it costs a lot of Robux to buy, so people don't really want to spend 2,425 Robux for you to get a fruit. The next one we have is going to be the Venom fruit. Now, even though the Venom fruit is really, really good, the demand is kind of there at 7 out of 10. The value is 900 million? 9 million, my bad. And the permanent value is 245 million. This fruit's really good, and I think it's pretty undervalued, so, I mean, it's good, though. It is a good fruit to have. After that, we have the control fruit. Now, the control fruit is a 7 out of 10 demand. That's because a lot of people really like this fruit, even though it's not that good. And the value is 8 million, of course, and the permanent is 250 million because it's such an expensive fruit to buy with Robux, so no one wants to do that. But anyway, next fruit. Okay, next we have the spirit fruit. Now, it's a little bit like the venom fruit. Not a lot of people use it, but there are some people, and I think it's a little undervalued. The demand is 7 out of 10. The actual value of the fruit is 10 million, and the permanent is 270 million, just because it costs so much, not because it's that rare. Or actually, it is rare, but not because it's that good. Now, this is where we start to get a little bit ridiculous. The dragon fruit is a 10 out of 10 demand because the dragon rework is just around the corner, we hope, and the value is skyrocketing from, you know, the tens of millions to the 180 million. Now, of course, at the moment, there is no permanent value because you can't buy this fruit permanent until the dragon rework. It is in progress, but I'm sure when it is ready to be bought permanently, it is going to be basically impossible to trade for it permanent. Okay, so the next fruit that we have is going to be the leopard fruit. Now, this one has dropped massively. Demand is still 10 out of 10. A lot of people like leopard fruits, but the value is only 40 million compared to dragon. That's absolutely nothing, but it's still a good fruit to pull if you can get one from the gacha or find one. And the permanent value is massive at 335 million, and that's because it costs literally 3,000 Robux to be able to buy this fruit. Alright boys, last but definitely not least, we've got ourselves the kitsune fruit. This thing is a 10 out of 10 demand. Everyone wants the kitsune fruit. It has got a trade value of 130 million. Not a cheap fruit at all. And the permanent version is 460 million. And that's because it costs 4,000 Robux. No one wants to give you a permanent kitsune for any goddamn trade ever. Basically, the only way to get a permanent kitsune is literally to trade 4 dragons for it and basically pray that that person has enough Robux in order to give you a permanent kitsune. And even then, they probably won't do that. But anyway, guys, that is all the fruits. I hope this video helped you out a little bit. And if you guys want to see all the trade values for like game passes and stuff like that, I can make that video too. So let me know in the comment section below.